Guys, this is going to be a review of Inside Out, which I got to see at the drive-in like 2 days ago with my family, and I was really excited to see it because I'm always excited for Pixar movies and Disney movies and whatnot, and this one was getting like such great reviews, and like people that I follow on the internet were saying amazing things about it, and I was really excited for it, and I was not disappointed at all. And the movie was amazing, guys. It was so amazing. I remember back at like the very early stages when Disney first started saying things about the movie and like the kind of concept of it, I was kind of like, I don't know how they're going to do that. Like, I don't know what the movie is going to be. And it wasn't that I was like against it or anything like that, because I just was like kind of like didn't understand how that was going to make a good film, but I was also like really optimistic because they usually do a good job. Like, Pixar movies are usually really awesome. One thing that I think is really great about this movie is it really does kind of like provide a way for kids to understand how the brain works. Obviously it's in a super fictionalized, this is not actually how anything in your brain works sort of way, but like it is kind of, all of it is symbolic of things that the brain like actually does in different ways. And like you have the memory dump where memories that aren't needed anymore are dumped, and you have like places where the memories are stored, like in long-term memory. You have like aisles and aisles of these little rainbow balls, which really reminded me of the Hall of Prophecies in Harry Potter, except much more bright and cheerful. You have imagination land, you have like an abstract thought chamber thing, and then like even at the end of every day they have to take all of the memories that Riley has made that day and like put them in like a thing that like sorts them, like which ones get stored and which ones are getting dumped. And then also, like, even in long-term memory, certain memories get cleaned out and dumped when they're not needed anymore. And like all of that is stuff that the brain really does, even if it doesn't do it in like that sort of way. And there were terms throughout the movie that kind of like all go back to like real things, and I loved that. I love the idea of kids like getting some sort of idea of what goes on in their brain, even if it's in a super like fictionalized way. But it's also like, if you're willing to talk to your kids about like, well, you know, this is like symbolic of things that the brain actually does, like that's a really easy way to like introduce the concept to them, and I really loved that aspect of the movie. You're warning that there are spoilers in this video from this point on if you haven't seen the movie yet. I think my absolute like favorite kind of part of the movie, besides the fact that it was hilarious, I cried for like the entire end of the movie and everything like that, so obviously it was just an amazing movie just from like a story standpoint, but also like the idea that sadness wasn't like the enemy or something, because I wasn't really sure what to think like going into it about what I didn't like know how exactly it would play out. Pretty much all I knew at the start of the movie was that it was about her emotions in her head. And the fact that like it kind of starts off as being a conflict between joy and sadness, obviously. Like, Joy is convinced that she needs to be in charge of things, and the fact that the vast majority of Riley's memories are her memories, like Joy's memories, is better, and she doesn't need sadness. Like, Joy doesn't understand why sadness is there, because sadness is just bad and Riley shouldn't have sad memories and things like that. And obviously that's like a mindset like a lot of people have, especially kids, I think. And then kind of going over the course of the movie, like things start going bad. Joy starts freaking out when sadness is touching memories and turning them sad, and everything's going wrong for Riley because her family's moved and she's upset, and it's all like sad, and Joy's upset because she can't make Riley happy and things like that. But I kind of love the idea when Riley gets like, I don't think that Riley's like clinically depressed in the movie, because it's not like discussed, she's not diagnosed with anything or anything like that, but it's definitely like a depression like kind of state that she's in. And the fact that is really illustrated because joy and sadness get taken away, like Riley can't feel joy or sadness, and I really liked that sort of like message, kind of like the problem, like when Riley had all of her emotions in her head, it wasn't a problem. The problem came when joy and sadness both disappeared, and anger, disgust, and fear were like the only emotions in Riley's head and the only ones that could do anything. And that's when the problem starts. And then later on, when her like the control board thing is breaking down or whatever, and none of them can get it to work, so Riley's like, they can't make her feel anything anymore, and that's like the huge problem. And it's not like any one emotion's fault, it's not having like all of the emotions, because all of them are necessary, and it's like needing, and like the big evil kind of idea is Riley no longer being able to feel anything. And the fact that like the way that they get her emotions back is by making her feel sadness is great, I think, and like shows that sadness serves a purpose and there's a reason why it's there, and it's important to Riley too, just like any of the other emotions are. And I really loved that in the movie. Also, just the idea that like Riley couldn't just force herself to be happy, like something was actually wrong in her brain that was making her unable to feel, and that kind of message too, I think, is important when it comes to like talking to kids about mental illness, because again, like Riley isn't diagnosed with anything, but I still think that that opens up like a good kind of path to kids to explain like when someone has mental illness, especially like depression, that they can't just like switch it off and be happy. Like that's not an option, because they're like their brain isn't like there's something wrong and that isn't working correctly. And I think that again, like obviously a lot of kids are gonna take this story as like a surface level story and everything, which is great, and it's like a great story, but just having that there too was excellent. I thought just like I loved the emotions, learning that like everyone's important, but also learning that they can control memories and that memories can have both emotions at the same time, and it doesn't have to be like one emotion for each memory. Like Riley can feel happiness and sadness at the same time, and that kind of whole idea of Riley like reaching emotional maturity, and they get a new control board thing that has like a wider variety of emotions that are more like nuanced. It's not just like 5 straightforward sort of emotions, and the idea that like she could feel multiple things at once, and that whole idea, I loved that. But like I said, like beyond kind of like what the movie says or whatever, it's just a great story. Like it was hilarious, I laughed so many times, I cried from the time that her like the last half hour of the movie, I think at least I was crying. And I'm so in love with this movie. I think it might be my favorite Pixar movie ever, but I would hesitate to say that until it's like been a while since I've seen it, because obviously like when you first see something it seems so great, but we'll see how it holds up for me over time. But I'm so in love with this movie and I love it. So if you've seen the movie, then let me know in the comments what you thought of it, if you loved it, if you hated it, or what, and I will see you guys later. Bye.